Here are 10 black commons that are actually pretty decent for what they do, and again, these are not going to be the best cards in the world. They are commons after all, but they can really help in certain situations, so let's jump right in. First is Cast into Darkness. It's a 1 and a black aura that enchants a creature, and then enchanted creature gets -2/-0 and can't block. This one's pretty cool, especially in the black enchantment decks. And you just kind of give something a minor combat, like lessening, I guess, and then it just can't block. So throw this on some big creature that someone has, and just like all of a sudden, it's easier to get around. So this one can be pretty handy in certain situations, especially for black. Continuing with auras, we have Cloak of Confusion. Enchanted creature you control, and whenever enchanted creature attacks and is not blocked, you can have it assign no combat damage, and if you do, defending player discards a card at random. Now, I don't know about you, but discarding cards is no fun, and then being forced to discard a card at random is even less fun. So this can really screw up opponents, and you might not be dealing combat damage, but you're still screwing up the opponent's turn and the next turn potentially, and so this can be pretty intense. Or you could throw this on something that has, you know, Skulk, and you just kind of get around things, or unblockable, stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, everybody's discarding cards at random. And it's no fun for our opponents. Alright, third is another aura. I promise they're not all auras. But this one enchants a land. So Enchanted Land becomes a swamp. Now, it's not a swamp in addition to its other types. It's just a swamp. So you can turn that Maze of Ith into just a swamp, and then that's really helpful. And then whenever Enchanted Land becomes tapped, its controller just loses 2 life. So it's just you keep them from getting their best land, and then you also keep them losing life if they use that swamp. So oh boy, this one's pretty rude, but it can get around a lot of situations that are that you may be in dire need of getting rid of. Burnt Offering is an instant, and as an additional cost to cast this spell, you sacrifice a creature, and then you add X mana in any combination of red and or black, where X is the sacrifice creature's mana value. I'm using the new wording here on the Scryfall because it's a little bit easier to digest than the old wording. But basically, it's a really good, you know, add mana to your mana pool type effect. And if you've got a very large creature, you can just, at instant speed, if it's going to die anyway, you can add any combination of black or red, and then you just add that mana to cast something else potentially. So this is a really good response to things, and I think it's just very clever. Call to the Netherworld is a sorcery for 1 black that says return target black creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Now that is not very good. There are other cards that do it much more efficiently that are 1 black mana that return any creature from your graveyard to your hand, or just straight to the battlefield. But this one shows its worth in its madness cost. If you can do this for free by discarding it and then just getting a creature back from your graveyard to your hand, that's incredible. Man, this will just help right along the way, and it's very good for what it is. Absorb Vis. I don't know if it's V or Vis, but I'm just going to say Vis for now. It's a sorcery for 7 mana. Target player loses 4 and you gain 4. That is awful. But it's got the basic land cycling ability, and in black that can be very helpful. Black is just terrible at finding lands, so basic land cycling in this black card is very valuable. If you've got no swamps in hand, you can discard this to go find one and then put that out, so it can almost ramp you a little bit. It's just great for what it is, especially in black where you may not be getting the lands you want, so this one can really help. Annihilating Glare from All Will Be One is really good. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay 4 or sacrifice an artifact or creature, and then you destroy a creature or a planeswalker. And this is just for 1 black mana, potentially. The thing about this is, we've seen this type of effect before. Pay 1 black, sacrifice a creature to destroy a different creature. You're kind of trading off creatures. But this one lets you sacrifice an artifact or a creature, and you can destroy a creature or a planeswalker. So you get an additional way to sacrifice, as well as an additional thing to kill. And planeswalkers are a little bit harder to kill compared to creatures, so this is just a really nice way to do it. And artifacts can be very, I don't know, very versatile, so you can have a bunch of treasures, and then you can just sacrifice a treasure and pay 1 black, and then boom, you've got a kill spell that's really good. There's that. I think that's a pretty neat effect. A little bit more better than just the sack a creature, kill a creature, because this is sack an artifact, kill a planeswalker potentially, which is really very good. Binding Agony, oh, it's another enchantment. So you enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature is dealt damage, Binding Agony deals that much damage to that creature's controller. So you could put this on something that your opponents have to block with, and then you swing for something big, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, I'm going to lose this life anyway from like a, I don't know, one of the great worms, right? 16/16 worm. Or I could just take the 16, or it's just a lose-lose for opponents. Oh man, this is a really good one. Bloodseeker is a great card. Vampire Shaman is a 1/1. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose a life. Now, you don't have to, so if you like a player, you'd be like, you know what, I'm not going to like, you cast a creature, you don't have to lose a life. But this guy over here that's got 10 million tokens going to come out next turn, yeah, you're going to lose a life for each of those. So it really controls the board, and it can just be very deadly for people. So this is just a great one. And last we have Blood Tithe for 3 and a black. It's a sorcery. Each opponent loses 3, and then you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Now, that's not as exciting as, say, Grey Merchant of Asphodel that does the same thing, but it's your devotion to black instead of just 3. Or let's say an Exsanguinate, and you can choose how much life. You know, it's not as good, but surprisingly, there's only 14 cards with the text, you gain life equal to the life lost this way, and the color is black. This one can actually be a pretty good fit in some of those decks. And then you can just pair it with Sanguine Bond, and then all of a sudden, you've got another effect that can go off if you don't have your Grey Merchant or you don't have your Exsanguinate. This is another option that can do that. So let's say you've got 3 opponents. You usually have got 3 opponents. Each opponent loses 3, and then you gain 9. And then everybody could potentially lose 9, or target person loses 9. That's a fairly significant amount of life. So this one pairs really well with certain things. So I wouldn't overlook this type of effect. Just because it's less effective than the other two doesn't mean you can't run it, and it still can be pretty effective, especially paired with Sanguine Bond type effects. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully these can help you in your next deck. And let's give the commons some love. We love the commons. Popper all the way. All right, see you guys next week.